It's officially terminated. Just one of the things.
Oh, I'm impressed.
I'm guessing.
No flippy. I know it. See? But the whole screen.
You're getting on that.
And still flips. You're louder.
You still can't see us.
But I can't see anything. When I first came in, I could see the PowerPoint of the
Oh boy.
Well, Amy, we're getting a tornado.
Well, on that note, to the dungeon.
Alright, nothing there.
Is it really also? We confirmed, really? Seriously?
Just north of Sunbury right
Oh.
We're going to the basement.
It's all because you said it.
That's fine.
Next time, follow me, please.
Welcome to Columbus.
Right at the beginning, a minute to start going.
What a leader.
Oh,
What a leader.
Was it my second meeting? The first meeting. Come on, Marcus. The first three meetings I attended were closed session. That's what it was. Closed session.
I'll stay up, Joe, and keep everybody posted.
All right. I try to get Columbus, Wisconsin weather, and it takes me to
Yeah, that's
Of course.
Hey, Matt, are you still in the room?
Nope, it's only Dennis. Everybody else is gone.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna, I think, just log out and go to my business center. I will call back in all third.
Okay.
I'm not sure what I'm gonna do with it all.
Yep, I hear ya.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
We used to go wine and call it good. This thing's like a week.
hear me?
Where did we go? but the fans are so loud in there.
I used to be downstairs, but.
I just had all three of my PTZ panels go down, or my switcher go crap. I'm not sure which one. And so now I gotta do this guy again, and then all of a sudden I think,
trust
We'll
fund.
describe what you need to draw.
Take the green screen.
Start in the upper right corner of the paper and draw a straight line down.
We used to do that. Fire training. Put people in rooms with with instructions over the radio, how to build something, how that
But
goes.
it's like a Zoom picture, you know, it's just a profile pic, there's no.
Let's just have Joe.
Okay, if you don't mind, Amy, I'll just lead.
Go for it, let's, we don't wanna delay anymore.
Okay, all right. So I'll just wait for David. All right, we're good to go. Okay, welcome everybody to tonight's special committee of the whole meeting, and welcome to those that are watching via cable. Obviously, you understand the delay in getting started, so could we have a roll call, please?
Police chief wants to say something.
Oh,
They
okay,
just
hold
issued an updated severe thunderstorm warning for specifically this area, stuff is west of possibly headed this way.
on. Okay.
But the tornado warning is on.
Tornado warning is off. Okay, good. Thanks.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Nope,
For now.
that's fine.
Ready?
Yep, go ahead.
Finkler. Here. Hammer.
Here.
Lawson.
Here.
Motive. Present. Reed. Here. Relke.
Here.
Rostad.
Here.
I acknowledge this meeting was posted and noticed according to law.
Okay, thank you, and I would look for a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Alder Rosted, second by Alder Motif to approve the agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda approved. In your packet, you will see that you have committee minutes for file from the library of February 18th of 2025 and the PFC from February 20th of 2025.
Excuse me, Joe, do
And-
we want public comments?
That's after.
Oh, it's after?
Yeah,
Okay, so sorry.
okay. Public comment now. Is there anybody signed up?
No.
Not for the special. Not for the special,
I think,
okay.
did you guys mean to be, I think should we clarify, because it's on the garden, so did you guys want to speak first, or after we've discussed and when we're making a decision? Because I think, like, they're here, they were asking me before.
Whenever you feel it's best for us to discuss, we will discuss.
Yeah, so I don't know if they should speak now on cow. or
Yeah,
on-
that's fine, if you,
Cow's when we're discussing it.
okay. All right, if you could go up to the podium and then state your name and address, please.
Tanya Frater, 1360 Waterloo Street.
In Columbus?
Zach Frater, 1360 Waterloo Street, Columbus, Wisconsin.
So we obviously live at 1360 Waterloo Street. We've lived there since February 29th of 2016. My husband, Zach, in the spring of 2016, put in a garden. When we purchased the property, we were told that our property line was on the other side of these bushes, which unfortunately are no longer there. The city did remove them. So what my husband did is he started at Highway 89 and just did a straight line for the garden, because it's a rectangular shape. And then the city did come out in 2016 when he was putting the garden in, because there was a question about whether the garden was on city property. And there were measurements taken, and I don't know who took those measurements, but we were told it was good. So we've used the garden the last 8 years. This will be the 9th year. And then in 2023, we put an addition onto our property. We added a garage and then 2-bedroom, 2-bath for my granny and mom to move in. And at that time, Brandon, who I believe was working as the city administrator, but also maybe like zoning as well. We had emails back and forth. And when they redid Highway 89, when the state of Wisconsin, the Wisconsin DOT redid Farnham Street, Highway 89, the engineer on that did say that there was concerns that the garden was on city property, but nothing was done. That was, again, we did not know about that. And so Brandon did say, the city currently has no plans to do anything with that property, so somebody gardening on it is very near the bottom of our priority list. The last thing I'm going to do is come out there and tell you to stop. And so we obviously continue to use it. And then we did receive a letter from Michael Kornman. Sorry if I slaughtered that name. About 3 weeks ago, saying that it was on city property, we cannot use it any longer. And so Molly was kind enough to kind of get this on the meeting for tonight. Included in that letter was a very old plat that shows our garden is like completely on city property. We did have a land survey done, and we did find out that the property line is diagonal. So when we put the garden in, we just did a straight line from Highway 89 to Waterloo Street, not knowing that the property line was diagonal. But it's literally like in half. And I did take some photos, and I mean, they're not the best photos, but you can kind of see this is from Highway 89, and then this is from Waterloo Street. So I don't know if you guys want to look at those. And then this is the updated plat, or the land that we had done when we put the addition on.
Shows you where the edge would be of our garden.
Because the city administrator did email Molly saying that the things that were going to be discussed tonight, possibly removing the garden, property owners would complete a survey, which again, we already had done, to determine the additional area needed for the city property. And so I guess we're just hoping to get a temporary limited easement on the property to continue to use it. We have inquired about purchasing like that sliver or even the entire lot. I have numerous emails, but they've all kind of gone unanswered. Brandon had reached out to the city attorney to see how the city had actually acquired the property. And it's still kind of up in the air whether or not it was donated, because I guess if it's donated, there's rules governing what can be done with that property, if it can be sold, because ideally, to get our property line in, just a straight line so that the garden could just basically be entirely on our property would be also an option. Again, I have no idea if that's something to consider as well. But I mean, we use the garden to feed our family. I think we did 215 quarts of dilly beans and pasta sauce and pizza sauce. There's neighborhood kids that come and help weed the garden. And it's just a nice green space. I mean, it's a beautiful garden.
And the city has used our garden in the past for part of their garden tours. So it's recognized, I mean, throughout the community, as a, point of interest, aesthetically pleasing.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
So the paper that you shared, are those plans for the addition, or is that an actual survey of your lot?
No, so the addition is already put on. That was for when they.
That was the plans, that's not a survey of the lot in any way?
I guess I'm not sure.
That was the survey.
That's a survey? Okay, thank you.
And then here's just some pictures of the garden. I mean, it's very well kept. My husband spends a lot of time in it. So I guess that's, I don't know if you have anything else to say.
Is this what Brandon drew up?
Yeah, and I guess, yeah, so
This would be a picture of what the tape measure is holding.
and that's actually not, that's based off of the old measurements.
Right.
And so it's actually even a little bit,
A little bit better.
yeah. And I guess I just want to make it clear, like, we weren't trying to be malicious when we put this garden in. We literally thought, because we were told that the bushes were on that, and then having the email from Brandon saying, it's very low on the priority list, keep using it. The last thing we're going to tell you to do is not to use it. And I guess we could understand if the city had plans for that area, why we wouldn't be able to use it. But if it's just going to be grass versus something that provides for the community, provides for our family. And I mean, we donate a ton of our produce to our church, the coffee garage.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's my question for Mike. Why was this brought up again?
The mayor communicated to me that he had received multiple complaints last fall or at some point, and I shared with him, I said, well, it would be a good time to engage that before we got too far into the spring and summer, so that that was the timing of that.
Okay.
Regarding Brandon's emails, I have not seen any of those. I'm not aware of those. I don't have access to those if they
Sure.
exist.
Sure.
And I do have the emails if you guys want to see them as well.
City administrator. Okay. Okay. Okay.
Are we privileged to know what the complaints were?
It was, okay, I still have my mic on. It was just people that knew that portion of your garden was on city property and that, you know, we're not allowing, in most cases, I would say, we're not allowing people on just to use city property.
Okay.
So, you know, where does it start? Where does it end?
Yeah.
So,
I make it a very good point or very effort to make sure that it's clean, it's well kept, it's not an eyesore.
and that's not even
Okay.
the question on that.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for your comment. So, under new business would be the to discuss the encroachment of garden at 1360 Waterloo Street onto city property.
Sorry, you're probably asking questions early. I should have waited.
In the description, there are three options for us to look into. So at this point, so right now, discussion will mainly happen between the council itself. So,
We should say,
yeah, please.
Thank you.
So Alderman.
This isn't an easy one. They've had it there for a long time, and it looks like it's been well cared for. And I just want to make it clear to you guys that I don't think anybody assumed there was any malicious intent, so please don't feel that. However, I completely understand that we have to draw a line of if we do it for one, we have to do it for another. And I think we need to adhere to what our city policies are. And if it's to not have any garden or any sort of encroachment onto the property, we should stick with that. I did see Attorney Johnson nodding his head about donated land, though. Is there anything on this that we need to know?
Hey,
You're not.
look at that. Well, no, absolutely everything I touch today is gonna fall apart, so. So this, the land in question was dedicated to the city in 1960. And it's part of what's called Caldwell's Addition, which is a platted area, and this was dedicated to the city for street purposes, if I remember correctly from the last time I looked at this. So what what that means is that, number one, it was given to the city as part of this platting process, which predates all of us, so I'm not gonna try to be a historian on that particular issue. But number two, once something is dedicated to the city, then the city is charged with using it and can't really sell it. The city's supposed to use it for something. If the city wanted to sell it, then it has to go back from whence it came, which would be whoever owned Caldwell's Edition back at the time, or else they would have to give their blessing and waive or consent to the sale, basically. So selling the land to the neighbor is not a good option at this time, and donating it to the neighbor is a worse option, because then that would be violating the city's use of the land on a couple different fronts. So those are not really options that you should be considering.
I don't know who was up first, so.
Me, okay, I wasn't sure.
Alder Finkler.
I understand that we want to draw the line and make sure that we're just not allowing people to do, whatever on city property. However, do we have processes and procedures in place where we can have the temporary limited easement put in place so it's not that it is black or white. We do have an opportunity of doing a limited easement. And I think the reason why we should consider that is it is well kept. They would be taking care of the mowing, the maintenance of the property. They would be doing all that. It's still us coming up with an agreement on the proper use of it and allowing it. It's not just saying, hey, it's okay, do whatever you want with our property. So it's not going against what we should be doing. So I think to be good, I don't even know the words, what I'm trying to say. It's been a rough day on coming up with words, but I think it's just the right thing for us to do, to not boot them out over property that it seems so trivial, and we have so many bigger things to worry about. I think we should just create a temporary limited easement that they take care of it. They can't put any structures, they can't make it any bigger, and if we need it, it's ours. But until then, I say just let them use it.
Alder Ressa, do you still have a comment? Well, Matt, you're laid on if you wish to speak.
He trumps me.
Yeah. So just to speak to this a little bit, again, I'm going to echo that no one views this as malicious intent, and again, my concern overall is if we don't address this, it tells the next property owner backed up to a park that they can do whatever they want on the park. And trust me, in 20 years of being a park and rec director, I dealt with some park encroachment issues. The challenge here, and again, part of the memo, this isn't me just throwing darts on the wall. This is conversations with Paul, conversations with Jason Letha about what makes the most sense here. And so that's why the options were put in front of you. I think the limited easement makes sense here, and trying to figure out, working with property owners of which option they would prefer. One of the benefits of allowing them to use the entire area and including that is no one has to do a survey. We can just allow the temporary limited easement for the entire parcel, but in turn we're going to ask them to maybe maintain that so it reduces the city's demands on mowing an area that we aren't readily in that area with equipment. So there's a little bit of a benefit for the city as well. So I think that one makes sense. The other would be to have a survey completed. It sounds like they may have done that. Paul will have to speak to how a survey is recorded, because when the aerial imagery that you're seeing in the memo that was sent, that's the county's GIS site, and if things get recorded, that's updated almost daily with land sales and transfer of land information. So if that survey was recorded, it would show up on GIS, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, yes, that would be correct. Yeah, the issue for you to to kind of wrap your head around. When you're talking about a temporary limited easement, the temporary is the key. And there are a few places within the city where there are other encroachment agreements where there's a building that is in the right of way, or that's the most common. And what you have in place there is that building can remain encroaching into the right of way until such time as the building is destroyed or remodeled or something like that, and then it has to be brought into compliance. This is a little bit easier to get your arms around. The temporary in this situation, I would suggest, is that the current owner of the property can maintain the garden as long as they reside on the property, and when they move, the easement's dead. So that the future owner knows they don't have this right, and then that clears up the issue. The other temporary part that you need to put in there is if, and the DOT is the likely suspect here. If the DOT comes in and says we're doing a street project and we need all of this parcel for the street, then that gives the city the right to kill the easement at the same time. So option number 3 on your list is the easiest to do here. It requires the current owners to do a little lawn mowing, but maybe that's a fair trade. But otherwise, the rest of this is easy to do. And as Matt was saying, when you do a survey, there's a certified survey map that gets recorded. I don't think that's been done here. There's also what's called a Plata survey, which is usually done for a particular landowner to say, here's where your lot is, here's where here's where the buildings lay, here's how your lot is laid out. That generally isn't recorded. It's good to have information in your hand, but that doesn't tell the rest of the world what's really going on. So if you wanted to go the survey route, then that Plata survey would be a good start, and then we'd want to just record something to clean up the line that we have now that's either diagonal or straight, depending on which map you're looking at.
Alder Lawson.
Are we following process? I mean, is this something that should have come to council, or should it have gone to some committee or some dispute resolution process before it got here?
I guess the question would be is what committee?
If there isn't one, it comes here.
Yeah. I think my 2 cents is this is the appropriate place to deal with this. This is this is actually a citywide issue at some point.
So we talked about, like, as much as we can going through committees, so we should probably determine where this stuff starts, at least in a committee in the future, so that when things like this come up, we can at least point residents in that direction to help them with, any kind of dispute. I agree, the third option makes the most sense. I just want to verify we don't have any concerns about the potential of someone being injured on the property, because obviously their homeowner's insurance isn't going to cover that portion that's outside their property.
You always have the concern. This may fall under the recreational immunity exception. I don't know if gardening is recreation. To some it is, to some it's not. But that'd probably be a pretty good start. And then a temporary limited easement would have an indemnification clause from the landowners to the city.
Okay.
Matt wanted to say something.
I would just add, I think this is what recreational immunity exists for. There's community gardens in public spaces throughout the country, and if the recreational immunity didn't apply here, the only challenge would be is if someone was charging admission to come to the garden, then recreational immunity goes away. I'd also just point out to the mayor that Amy has her hand raised as well.
Okay. Alder Roston.
So when we talk about temporary limited easement, are we trying to limit it
the months? Are we gonna do a full calendar year? Cause all it mentions in here is grass. There's a city sidewalk that runs that whole length of Highway 89 that is city property
Is there sidewalk there?
for snow removal. So is the city gonna be responsible for the snow removal?
I don't believe it was.
All things that we can talk through.
And I would echo too, the third option is the best option we have presented to us as a council.
Alder Rolke?
I was just gonna say that I'm fully in agreement that option 3 makes the most sense to me, but particularly with that identification clause in it, if they've got volunteer high school students working in their gardens.
What did she say about high school students?
Helping out.
Yeah, I think it's just neighbor kids. Yeah, it's just neighbor kids.
Okay.
It's not like connected to the high school.
Alder Reed?
Oh, thank you. I'm also most comfortable with option 3. I just want to check and make sure that the complaints that started this don't have anything to do with any type of nuisance or what have you. If there's runoff or if there's any odor, I just don't want to go forth and grant the permission without just checking to make sure there wasn't some type of extra basis for the complaint.
It basically came that, you know, that they know that part of a garden was on city property. So does that mean then they can go and plant a garden? Granted, your land butts up to it, but what's to stop anybody else then from putting a garden there? Because if you're letting one, where do you stop it? By coming up with an agreement like what the third option is, I mean, that would take care of that. But, you know, those are so, but it's not like a malicious thing, or it wasn't like that it's looking bad or anything. It's use of city property for personal use. We see that all the time on farmland. People will encroach on farmland and just keep pushing their lawn back further, and that happens on a regular basis too. So, but it's something that definitely we need to address. So, and again, third option, I can fully agree with that. So. Alder Reed, you have another?
Oh, thank you. Oh, just a quick question. For the temporary limited easement, would that likely be essentially indefinite until the property is sold or we have use for it versus just this one season?
Oh, yes, that would be, that's up to you to decide the term, but the way that I would normally draft that is that it remains in place as long as the current owners live there or until the city needs the land for streets or for any purpose, I guess, and when I would limit it to streets. Yeah, you could do it annually if you wanted to, but then you have to deal with this every year, and turn out to be like Halloween at some point.
Alder Ross.
So I'm assuming this isn't what the property owners want to hear, or the delay, but I think the best option is to probably table it, because it's going to go from here to the council tonight, and we have set no agreement up, and then it's going to have to come out of council back to the cow for us to agree to it.
The way that I would foresee this is, at your council meeting tonight, you can vote on one of these 3 options, and I will have something ready for you to review and approve at the council level for your next meeting.
Which is?
Whenever that is.
April
15th, yeah.
And I'm assuming
it wouldn't have to come back to COW, because we've
No.
already discussed it.
Okay.
So it can just have its further discussion in regular council, so.
And is the 15th adequate time, or would you want stuff in the garden by the 15th?
The 15th would be fine. I mean, if the weather was nice, I mean, generally I'm telling you that during that time. I always like to try to start Good Friday.
And that's something we can,
But I would also argue that your motion that you make at the council could be in good faith that we're going to figure this out and allow them to move forward with
That's
this
what I was just
year's
gonna ask.
planting program.
Alder Motive.
I was just gonna say, I know that Alder Rosted had brought up sidewalks. I don't see them in the
They are.
picture. They are there?
They are there,
Okay, so I would definitely support care of the sidewalks then, so that the city's not having to take care of that.
They're just at the back of the property, right?
but the city owns the whole stretch of 89.
Right.
So if the city's out there snow plowing, they can plow the end of the whole sidewalk, in my opinion.
So, we good moving this forward into the regular council?
Yep.
Yes, all right. Thank you. All right, then we will move on to item number 3, which is to discuss, discussion related to social media policy.
I'll start this off. I've got some comments that I want to make on this, and believe that some of the recent comments and back and forth on the city's Facebook posts are a product of some of the national political discourse, and in general, people on both sides politically frustrated. Last year, these same posts were made without any of the personal attacks or vitriol that we saw this year. Our Facebook page has 3,082 followers, of which 1,265 have a 53925 zip code. We have 10 known foreign accounts that are followers. Over the past 3 months, we averaged 2 posts a month that generate comments. Monthly, we average 2 posts that receive comments, and for posts that generate comments, we average 6 comments per post. A significant goal of the city over the past 15 months has been the retention and recruitment of employees. I think the council needs to strongly review whether personal attacks on city employees should be allowed on social media posts.
Alder Finkler.
I would ask that maybe this get bumped out to next cow so our new council, our new alder can be participating in that conversation.
Alder Motive.
I was just gonna say, we've talked about this extensively in the past, about whether we could legally do any kind of restrictions on comments. And Attorney Johnson, I thought our choice was either to turn the comments off or let them have freedom of speech. What has changed? It's not that I don't support it, because I do think that some of the comments that have been out there on social media have been absolutely disgusting. But I'm just curious what changed in the freedom of speech.
I don't know that anything has changed. I'm still not aware of a, like a landmark ruling by the Supreme Court on what can and cannot happen here. I've got something that I pulled from a seminar that I went to a long time ago that kind of goes back and forth. The city spent a lot of time back in 2019 on a social media policy. And the big argument at that time was, there were 2 issues of focus there. Who in the city got to actually put stuff on the website in the first place? And was the city going to allow anybody to comment at all? And it started out as being information only, and then the version of the policy that I'm actually looking at in my hand here does allow for comments to be made, but the city not to be able to respond, basically. So please comment all you want, members of the general public, sitting in your bedrooms in your underwear or whatever the case might be, but the city couldn't respond. And I'm not a social media person. If it was me, I wouldn't allow anybody to respond to your posts at all, but I know I'm very much in the minority on that. So I can distribute what I'm looking at here if it helps the conversation move along, or I can not, so.
I'll just add, to probably no one's surprise, on the city administrator's discussion page, So another community had asked the question about, do you allow or not allow comments? They were looking specifically for a policy that did not allow comments. And the policy in front of you may have had some minor tweaks made to it, but it comes from another city that did not allow comments on their Facebook page. And I'm sure we're not the only city that pulled that off of that thread and is having the same discussion. Because it's not unique to Columbus. Every community is dealing with these challenges with social media.
All the rest of it?
Vitriol is getting worse every day.
So when we look at ownership of social media accounts in this new document presented to us, it says the city owns all city social media sites regardless of the employees. So what site are we talking about for this discussion? Are we talking about the City Hall, 105 North Dickinson Boulevard? Or are we going to include 161, the Fireman's Service Corps page, the Aquatic Center page? Because it says if it uses the city's name, but it doesn't say the city's name is the City of Columbus. It lists out Columbus. So that could be the Columbus Area Historical Society, who has no ties to the city, because Columbus is in there. I think there's...
We can't govern anything. I think the intent is for any city-generated social media accounts. And we're not just limiting it to Facebook, but it's the idea that whatever social media develops in the future, as we know it's changed a lot over time, that these are the policies that adhere to city-created, and when I say city staff-generated social media sites.
So what's the definition of city staff?
If you're paid by the city and creating a social media site for the city.
Okay, so if we want to eliminate comment, or possibly eliminate comments, yeah, like, that's the big one that sticks to my head. Either the community center, or the community center, either Amy Jo's rec department on her side, or the aquatic center. I mean, the people ask questions all the time about, are you open? Whoever runs that page won't be able to comment back if we make the policy. And I get it, we need a policy because we can't allow citizens to belittle our law enforcement. But in the same token, we have to be careful, because then we're cutting out the communication point.
You can exempt certain pages as part of the policy. I'd be leery that then we start dealing with those issues on those sites potentially as well.
And I would agree, because they're going to be a bad apple on the page that allows it. We ex-nay it here, they're going to go to the next city page and do the same thing. Those are just my concerns. And I'd be in favor of postponing it if that was the will of what the majority wanted, so the new alder could be part of the discussion. But I also think we're on a time restraint to address and put a halt to it before we do lose employees over this. Like I've had conversations with the chief, that some of them comments are career changing to some people, or could be or will be, and that's not fair. And we as a council need to support everyone that works for us, whether we like it or not, what they're doing. So,
Alder Finkler.
Did you consult with Amy Jo on what impact this would have on her because of all the services that she and her team provides to Columbus? And so my understanding is we'd be looking to not even allow anybody to make a comment whatsoever, not us comment back, just no comments whatsoever made on any post, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Using it as informational.
So, yeah. So then we come in the problem of, Amy Jo stuff, you see people tagging people all the time, and that's word is spreading on events.
You'd be able to share the posts and tag anyone you wanted on your own page, just not on the city's.
I still would like to know from her, what kind of impact this would have, because she should be consulted on this, and also think it should be bumped to our next council meeting. I think this is a topic we really need to think about, and we really need to make sure we're making the right choice, because it will impact us potentially in multiple different ways. However, I understand the intent, and we need to protect staff. I just hope that they understand how big of a conversation this is, and just have patience for 2 more weeks while we bring it back to the next. I would hope that that 2 weeks wouldn't cause anybody to quit over us wanting a new alder to be part of the conversation.
Well, nobody says that we have to move this forward, but I mean, we can, as we see things on our social media sites, you can, stop that thread right there. So who's ever making the malicious comment?
So you're requesting a temporary, something put in temporary while we figure out the
all
policy?
I'm saying is that if there's a personal attack on an individual, you squash that right away. I mean, there's
There's freedom of speech, so we need to be careful. We need to really think about what we're doing. We can't, as far as I understand from previous conversations, and Attorney Johnson, maybe you can address this, but as long as we allow comments, if somebody puts one on there, we can't remove it.
Most of the policies that I see have language in them that say the municipality reserves the right to take down anything that's abusive or not related to government business. Having said that,
We don't have that.
well, the 2019 policy does, but I don't know if I'm not sure if that was ever approved, but it was sure talked about for a very long time. And at the same time, again, I'm not aware of any court cases that tell you which way this goes. So that's the best I can tell you, as I sit here right now.
So I could see a temporary thing being in place if we agree to having a disclaimer put on there that if you're being abusive or whatever is a general disclaimer, but I think forcing through a new policy is probably not the correct answer. We should take our time.
I spent a good part of today talking with a municipal clerk in another community who's being harassed on Facebook on a regular basis, and basically telling her that she kind of has to take it. Because there's no policy in that community that addresses this one way or the other, and it is a free speech issue, and the employees of the city are also public, they're public employees. And it's really crappy, it's crappy advice to give, but I think that there's a lot of truth to it, as we sit here right now. Yeah. So it's an issue that is getting worse as time goes on.
Alder Lawson.
Yeah, so I heard a few people say different things in the discussion, and what I'm reading here from what's being proposed doesn't say that we would turn comments off. Right. It says that there would be, considered limited public forums, and we would essentially manage content if there was something that was inappropriate, it could be removed, and that not only could it be removed, but violating users after so many offenses could be blocked. So the recommendation isn't to turn off commenting, right? The recommendation is to still allow people to comment, but to police it somehow.
I guess from my perspective, I think you've got either option, and we wanted to get some direction from council. You'll notice this isn't on the council agenda, so we didn't have any intention of this being reviewed by the council this evening. Wanted to get some discussion and feedback for the next meeting. And I see advantages of both ways. How the policy is written is, you're correct. It requires monitoring, the ability to limit comments, the ability to block a user after offense. The challenge with that is we have to think about the staffing level and the staff hours that are now going to be spent in managing that, and is that staff time best spent, or is it a better solution to treat our posts as public information and limit and do not allow comments, and just use the forum to continue to push information to the public? And my response on the recreation side is, there's nothing to say you can't post, hey, the pool's open today. Or when the pool closes for poor weather, the pool's closing for poor weather, and it stops the comments and the back and forth that also is requiring of staff time. So I think there's solutions. It just depends on the direction the council wants to go with this.
Other motive.
I do think that this policy needs to be carefully vetted, because there are some freedom of speech issues here, although we do need to figure out how we can do it and protect the employees. I think that the point is moot to hold it over since it's not being brought forward to the council meeting. So it'll be taken to the COW again for more direction. And that will allow the other alders to speak on it rather than making comments to shut out a current alder.
Are you for real? That was not the intention
Okay,
in any way,
all right,
shape, or
all right,
form, so
let's-
do not accuse me of
let's-
something I was not doing.
All right, let's just leave it at
Thank
that.
you.
Leave it at that, please. Alder Rolke, did you have anything, any comment?
I agree that we should be vetting this carefully. I would be interested in hearing everybody's voice on this, including outgoing alders, and incoming alders.
Exactly.
I also think that to Matt's point, social media is a tool, and sometimes I think it gets overly used as a crutch. There are other ways that people have found out for years the pool was open, or, you know, if the rec thing was going on. Amy Jo is really good at advertising. I certainly wouldn't want to see conversations prematurely truncated, but a point that I hadn't even considered prior to this conversation is how much time employees are already spending answering those kinds of questions. So maybe we should funnel this in that direction too, like from the starting point. So like that's a major time suck for somebody to have to do that, which costs the city money. So maybe that's where we start from. I don't know, but I don't think it's a discussion that's going to end tonight, nor should it end tonight.
Alder Rosted. Excuse me.
I would just ask that the 2019 paperwork that Attorney Johnson has be submitted either via email to the alders, or I would prefer that way before it's in the packet, so we have time to read it and go through that along with the new one we can print off and do ourselves. The only other question I do have is, being a previous city employee, in the handbook there's a social media policy. So what is that wrote off based if we possibly haven't adopted that 2019 policy?
We'll have to do some more work on that. Usually the handbook policy talks about what employees can and can't do on their own personal social media as it relates to their employment with the city.
Okay.
Alder Finkley.
Yeah, I agree that we should have the extra information. I also think that we do need to have some more time to think about this, purely because we don't want to make any decisions that's subjective. And because I think that's going to get us into a sticky situation, because I know what I find insulting, somebody else may not find insulting, and vice versa. So to leave that subjectivity up to a city employee, I can promise you, if I was a city employee, I would refuse to do that, because you are just darned if you do, darned if you don't, you know, in that type of situation. So, it's on COW tonight. So usually things, you know, move to council after COW. So I wasn't intending it to, not include the conversation tonight, but to go back to COW to include the new alder starting.
Okay. Well, while we're going through, you've got the information that you do need. And then my last comment on this is to citizens that are bashing our staff. Our staff is directed by council to do a job, and they are doing their job whether you like it or not, there are ordinances. We all live in a land of laws, and you need to follow those laws. And so if you got a beef, you either contact the police chief, you contact the city administrator, you contact me or your alder, but bashing on social media is not acceptable. So. Oh, I'm sorry, Alder Lewis.
Yeah, just wanted to point out, no matter what we do, there are other pages, community pages that we're not going to be able to control.
Oh, right.
And this stuff happens, unfortunately, more frequently.
Yep.
So if we're thinking that we're going to be able to do that, that's not realistic.
That's not the intent. I don't want our city Facebook page, which, you know, is a media we control, what is on, to be seen negatively by other people. Like, if you're moving to a community, one of the things you may look at is the city's Facebook page. And if it's filled with the staff sucks, I don't know what we're doing, right?
All right. With that, then we'll move on to item number 4, which is discussion regarding authorization to begin recruitment for a finance director and approval of job description. So you have that in front of you.
So just to kind of address this, Crystal, our treasurer, has informed us that she plans to retire by the end of June. As I think everyone here is well aware, Crystal's done a lot of work to elevate where we're at financially, both in the budget creation, the 5-year capital improvement plan, and just our overall policies and procedures within the treasurer's office. These are difficult recruitments throughout the state. A lot of communities have been creative on how they've tried to attract someone to the treasurer's role. My proposal is, we've talked about this previously, and this would formalize it, is to create a finance director position that would oversee the deputy treasurer and human resources. And the current salary for the treasurer position, that we would eliminate the treasurer position and increase the pay range from where the treasurer is currently at up to a midpoint of $45 an hour. And I've included the job description as well that Crystal, Stephanie, and Kendra, our new human resources administrator, all worked on this week.
Okay. Alder Fink.
I just have, I'm sure it's just a technicality and we just kind of have to work through this, but we mentioned deputy treasurer, which implies we have a treasurer. Are we going to be renaming the deputy treasurer? Because it just kind of reads weird.
I agree, and I think that's something we can look at as we go through this process and make sure we bring that job description updated with an appropriate title.
Alder Rested.
Maybe you misspoke, or maybe I misunderstood, but you said $45 was the midpoint?
This would be the advertised range of the position, where we've tried to get everybody to the midpoint of their range. We're not going above the midpoint in negotiations with staff, so this would be the listed range for the position. There is no determining for this range. That's going to be a big part of later this year as we look at wage scales for all of our positions of where we're at in comparison to similar sized communities.
But the previous practice, or I shouldn't say previous practice, let's back up. Every city employee employed here now is at midpoint prior or after we made the bump in the 3rd or 4th meeting, correct?
Yep.
So 45 would put him at the 93.6 salary?
Yep.
At a starting point, or midpoint start wage?
Midpoint of the start, yeah, yep.
I guess with that range in there, if someone comes in more qualified, would you have to come to us for approval, or would you guys be able to approve that within your allowance?
We'd have to come, from my perspective, we'd have to come to council, and again, if we start bringing new hires in above the midpoint of the range, we're going to have a challenge with our existing staff that are all at the midpoint of the range. So to me, 45 is the tops that we're going to go on bringing someone in for this position.
Okay, I was just asking the question. Thank you.
Yep.
Alder Motive.
Will you be using a staffing agency to help with this at all?
I don't know that that is necessarily appropriate. I watched a neighboring community hire a department head using a recruitment agency, and Joe and I could have told that community that that was the person they were going to hire for the position. So,
You did get it then?
yeah.
Okay.
I do recommend for an accounting position to use a staffing agency who vets that they actually have those skills. I work in this industry. I've done recent hiring, and I was very surprised to discover that people are not always truthful exactly about what their skill level is. Just a suggestion.
I want to throw a question back at you.
Yeah.
In that we know that the finance world is unique and that municipal finance is even more unique.
Yep.
Is there a firm out there that understands municipal finance that can appropriately vet someone?
Absolutely.
Okay. And then, because the other question I have is, are we likely to get that candidate, or are we hiring someone based on a skill set that is going to allow them to gain the knowledge and experience they need? Well, we know we have Ellers as a consultant that provides a lot of guidance and assistance in the financial world. I'm not trying to be dismissive of the idea of hiring a recruiting firm. I just know that you don't always get any greater results hiring the recruiting firm.
Sometimes you don't. I'll agree with you, and I'm not telling you what to do. It's
Yeah.
just my suggestion. But there are firms out there that specify, or excuse me, their specialty is accounting and various different types of accounting. And so they could address the municipal accounting side of it.
Okay, Alder Lawson.
Are there other municipalities close to our size that have combined this position in the same way with the human resources?
I would say that, again, we're not staffed the same as Sun Prairie, but their similar position oversees finance, HR, the clerk, kind of everything that happens at City Hall outside of planning and zoning, administration, that sort of thing. It's becoming more frequent, and what I'm looking at is we could have a candidate who's strong in finance and HR that is well positioned to oversee both of those areas at a high level, and that maybe that is ultimately our best fit with the selected candidate down the road.
And you don't have any concerns about the workload of doing that?
Right now we have a human resources administrator, we have a treasurer, deputy treasurer. We're not going to change from those three positions. It's just a different look at who's responsible for what, and then making sure that when we hire the finance director, that we've looked at our team of three and who does what best. Maybe we have a payroll benefits person. Maybe that becomes the deputy treasurer's role. It's figuring out with those skill set of who's best fit in the different slots and the most effective team moving forward.
Alder Reed.
Oh, thank you. Just a question about the pay range, going back to that. I thought we were looking at advertising between 37 and 45 for the range, depending on the skill level, and I was just confused when you were saying 45 for the mid-range.
So when we advertise positions, we advertise the salary range to the midpoint for any position that we post. We're full-time positions, we're advertising from the starting wage to the midpoint of the range.
So our plan's highest hourly amount would be the midpoint of the typical amount someone in that position would make. Is that what you're saying?
The highest that we would negotiate with the selected candidate is to $45 an hour.
I understand, yeah, I understand what you're asking. So when you see the salary range of 78, whatever, to 93, just picture one more number on there, and that's our internal range for that position. And what Matt is saying is that the high point on the posting is the mid-range of our internal range. It's not this isn't the range for this job title. It's bigger than that, but this is as high as we're willing to go, which is the midpoint of the range. Did that make sense? Okay, I tried.
Thanks, Molly. Alder Roki, you have any comments?
I do, in fact, my hand was raised. I don't have a problem at all with the description. I like the description, and I don't have a problem with the top of the posted wage range. I am a little concerned as somebody who's done a fair amount of hiring myself, that the lower end of the range is a little low for my comfort. I think, I've had people tell me before that they don't apply for a role because they're skeptical and they assume they're gonna get offered closer to the lower end of the role. And with this kind of qualifications, I'd be much more comfortable with like the minimum we would offer being $40 an hour, which is 83.2. So I'd be more comfortable with the 83 to 93 range than the 78, but that's just me.
Alder Finkler?
I also agree with Alder Rolke on bumping that lower end up just a little bit. It does come off a little shockingly low, so I'm with you on that. The other thing is I think it would be okay to try posting this without going through an agency. You do have some qualifications there. I have in my day job have come across fraudulent people and pretending like they have the skills and they don't really have. There are ways to suss that out within the interview process that I think we could save ourselves not having to go through an agency.
You're good? Okay. I just have a couple of quick questions and pretty minor. Page 22, in the supervision exercise area, it says city administrator / treasurer.
Yeah.
Was that just an old posting that the word was in there? Or?
Yeah, the old job description had this position, and this was drafted, like, I think in 2020, it was from the files that we started with, and it had been proposed previously, and at that time, the city administrator treasurer was a combined position, and so we just missed that we'll make sure to get edited in the final posting.
And then just on page 23, letters I and J, the sewer utility should probably be moved into letter J, now that the utilities are combined. So that's all. That's all I had. So. So with the corrections that were made, we are good with moving this forward? Okay. And then...
Do we have a letter? Do we have a formal letter from Crystal? Okay. Okay. All right. Then I would look for a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
I'll second.
Motion by Alder Finkler, second by Alder Rosted to adjourn. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, does anybody need to take a quick break or move in? Just move ahead? All right. All right, then welcome everybody to tonight's Common Council meeting of Wednesday, April 2nd, 2025, and welcome to those that are watching on cable channel. And I would entertain a roll call, please.
Finkler. Here. Hammer.
Here.
Lawson.
Here.
Motive.
Present.
Reed. Here. Relke.
Here.
Rostad.
Here.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I acknowledge this meeting was posted and noticed according to law.
Okay, thank you. Then I would look for a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I'll move to approve the agenda.
Second.
Okay, motion by Alder Lawson, second by Alder Motif to approve tonight's agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, agenda approved. Public comment for this?
No.
Nope. All right, then on to consent agenda, which is special committee of the whole and common council minutes of March 18th of 2025.
So move to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion by Alder Rosted, second by Alder Finkler to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, consent agenda approved. Next is to consider and take action on the encroachment of garden at 1360 Waterloo Street onto city property.
I'll make a motion for that there is agreement developed that the city grants temporary limited easement for the entirety of the adjacent city property with limitations on what can be done on the property, no structures, no expansion of the garden, etc., in exchange for them maintaining the grass area and to expected city standards. Do we need to say anything about like any more specifics or kind of just let you guys work that out? Because I know there's conversations on sidewalks and stuff, but I think you guys are capable of figuring that out for sure.
I think the motion is up to you. I know what I'm doing.
Okay, if you guys know what you're doing, then I'll just leave it at what I said.
Your motion is fine as stated.
Reed will second.
Okay. Motion by Alder Finkler, second by Alder Reed. Any further discussion on this? Alder Rusted?
I guess I would just ask that in the agreement that shall and when they sell, they put it back to what it was at their cost. So level it out, replant the grass.
That'd be a good idea. Yes, okay, I added that to my list.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Then next on the agenda is to consider and take action on the Zion Lutheran conditional use permit, previously discussed at the January 19th, 2025 under, with Plan Commission, and also again with Plan Commission at March 13th of 2025. And Mike, if you would.
Can I have a mulligan? It's a mulligan, but it's a mulligan. Did we need to add something in that motion? I'm really sorry, about good faith that they can use the property now? Because I know we had talked about that. Or are you not concerned about that?
I'm not concerned.
Okay, we're good. Sorry, didn't mean to
don't-
interrupt, just
I
wanted to
don't
make sure.
think the zoning police will be coming out tomorrow.
Okay,
to
good.
do
Just
anything.
wanted to make sure. Okay, sorry.
The Zion Lutheran Church conditional use permit is recommended by the Plan Commission with the conditions listed in your memo. There's 9 of them there. The discussion at the previous Plan Commission meeting included discussion around the Fuller Street access, which is currently platted, and there's a stub of a road there. The discussion centered around whether or not that drive should be improved to city street standards or provided as a service drive until Fuller Street development to the west is fully built out and the full street put in. The Plan Commission recommended that it stay a service drive. Overall, this project allows for the expansion of the school with additional parking and eventual tear down of some of the older buildings. So we're still working with with the engineer to go through to get a staff-approved site plan, but we're close, and but we're still working through some of the details with their people. So to recap, the Plan Commission recommends approval of this conditional use permit with the 9 conditions, which includes addressing the items in the city engineer's review letter, obtaining staff approval of the site plan, follow all municipal ordinances, screen refuse from public view, provide a fire hydrant in the center of the site for safety, obtain building sign and other permits as required by ordinance. The conditional use permit would be in effect as long as all conditions of the permit are met. So 9 conditions total.
Okay. Discussion?
We need a motion first.
Oh, yeah, we need a motion first, yeah. Sorry.
I'll move to approve the conditional use permit with the suggested conditions mentioned.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Alder Finkler, second by Alder Lawson. Now, sorry, discussion. So, Alder Rested.
So I watched this planning commission meeting twice to get better clarification, and I wish Jason was here tonight to address it. He mentioned that they are their project does check the box to bring it to city standard, the street, and the president addressed the adjacent property to the north of Fuller Street. What happens when they would want to sell that back half off? And it was mentioned in the planning commission that they could put it in, that it would fall back on the Zion School to bring it to city standard at that point, shall and when that happens. And I did not see any of that in the updated document.
Number 9, provide a service drive on Fuller Street until development occurs to the west.
But it doesn't say who is going to pay for it when it happens.
You can add that condition if you like.
Yeah.
I think it needs to be added.
I'll just chime in, and I strongly believe that's a really good catch and recommendation, in that as development occurs to the west, the developer may say, why didn't the city require this to be brought up to standards at the time it was redeveloped? So I think having some ability to address that in the future is extremely important.
And the only other question I have is the way, if you look in your packet, where it cuts off, the snowplow is going to come in and stop right there and block the road, technically, because we shouldn't be plowing into their driveway or into the west residents' backyard. So theoretically, in a snowstorm, that service drive could be inaccessible in the event of emergency, being it's not a city street.
I'll just argue that I think in every community there are situations like this, and everybody figures out a way to make sure that it gets cleared and is accessed, and that's, although not ideal, it's part of a further development, right? It's everything doesn't develop at the same time, and there's things that have to happen in between to make things work.
And they are going to be maintaining that service drive from that point, from where it stops forward, because they use that for like bringing in like deliveries and stuff like that. So that they are responsible for plowing that as their road. So.
Alder Reed?
Oh, thank you. I'm very comfortable leaving it as a service drive for the meantime. I do wonder if we should add a little comma after the, for number 9, for the until development occurs to the west, and then full street would need to be implemented or created. Just a little something to have the language on the front end.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want them to have to do anything at this time.
Mm-hmm. And I think that was the intent, from Plan Commission, so I don't see anybody with it. Yeah,
I
yeah.
think it was, it just got
Yeah.
missed, or
Yeah.
didn't get added in.
Yep.
Okay.
So does the motion need to be amended to have that added?
Yes.
Yes. That's definite.
Who made the initial?
Me.
Molly, okay.
I will move to amend the motion to to update number 9 under the conditions to include, that the service drive will only, however staff want to word it, that the service drive is only there until development occurs, and then it has to be brought up to standards
By who?
by, Zion.
I'll second.
Okay, an amended motion by Finkler, second by Lawson. Any further discussion then? Okay. See if she's got a hand up. Nope, she doesn't. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Motion passed. Then item number 4 is presentation of the annual report by Columbus Utilities. Jacob Holbert is not here tonight. Both Molly and I are here as representatives of the Utility Commission, and if there's any questions on things, we answer to the.
I was going to kind of pinch hit on this too, and
Sure.
just kind of highlight a couple of things. If I get to the right slide.
Okay.
So, in terms of benefits of municipal utility, just some numbers here in terms of pilot payments that are made, and that the utilities are the largest tax-paying entity within the city. They also contribute to a number of our city staff positions, and are a good partner with the city in a lot of different ways. You can kind of see some of the comparison of sales and revenue as they relate to the electric department. Similar for the water, where you have, again, sales on the left and revenue on the right, and for wastewater. You kind of see where our rate structure compares, and this is from the Public Service Commission in terms of electrical comparison rates, where compared to those communities, we are on the low end. For water, you also see that Fond du Lac, which a little bit larger, more ratepayers, so they can have a lower rate, but we're in really good shape as it relates to our water rate. Again, I'm not going to read the whole presentation. There's a lot of information there. If there are specific questions, you could, email Jacob, email myself, and we can get any questions answered that anyone may have. And I don't know if Joe or Molly, if there's anything more that you want to highlight, since you've seen the presentation by the staff that created it.
The only thing I would just add to is that under the utility governance structure, the Wisconsin DNR is also part of that.
With the
you have to
wastewater.
follow the water and wastewater regulations. So, but, any questions from anybody? No.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
No, it's just it is an annual thing that should be done just to give an update on the utility. All right, then next on the agenda is to consider and take action on the claims in the amount of $249,254.99.
I'll make a motion to pay the claims for $249,254.99.
Wonderful second.
Okay, motion by Alder Finkler, second by Alder Motif. Any questions on the claims? Hearing none, roll call.
Lawson.
Aye.
Excuse me. Rosted.
Aye.
Reed. Aye. Vinkler.
Aye.
Relke. Motive?
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Okay, thank you. And then next would be to consider and take action on the authorization to begin recruitment for a finance director and approval of the job description.
I'll move to approve the authorization to begin recruitment for the finance director and approve the job description with the updates mentioned from C.O.W.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Alder Finkler, second by Alder Lawson. Any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, this is a roll call probably, because
Finkler?
Aye.
Relke?
Aye.
Lawson?
Aye.
Reed? Aye. Motive?
Aye.
Rostad?
Aye.
Ayes have it.
okay, thank you. Then we have report of city officers. First, the police chief. Talk loud.
There we go.
There you are.
Yay.
Might have hit wrong button somewhere. All right, it's on. Must be working. Good evening. Whoa. Should have picked the other chair. I just have a couple of things I want to chat about real quickly. So an upcoming event, and then talk a little bit in part about some of the prior discussion at this meeting tonight about social media, some ordinance and zoning issues we've been dealing with, and end it with that. So first of all, April 26th, from 9 o'clock in the morning until 11. That's April 26th. It's a Saturday, 9 to 11. We are participating in the Spring Drug Take Back Day again, like we do in the spring and the fall. It'll be at the Columbus Police Department out front. Just pull up and we'll come and get it. You can walk up to us and get it, however you want to do it. It usually has a pretty good turnout. We usually surrender quite a bit of drugs to the state site in Madison the following Monday. We also have the drop box in the lobby that's accessible 24/7. It's secured. You can get into the lobby, and then the box is like triple secured. And we get a lot of stuff in that. People are dropping stuff in all the time. Sometimes so much that they jam the chute when they close it, and then we have other issues and pills all over the floor and things like that. But it's a good event. It gives me some face time with people because I usually staff it. So I enjoy that, and hopefully the weather will be nice. Secondly, one of the things I want to share with you is that part of my 2025 budget, one of the items I submitted was to replace all of our department badges. Our badges are old and weathered, and in the 20-plus years I've been affiliated with the department, I know that we've only replaced one badge, and that was when Chief Meister left. He was allowed to take one with him, which is kind of traditional. And our badges have gotten weathered. We've tried some ultrasonic cleanings and things like that, and actually made them worse, and they were bordering on embarrassing. So I included that in my budget. We wanted to do something special to represent the city and some of the history of the city. So we submitted a prototype design to them. We actually just got them last week, and I will pass them around. We've switched to the ovals, and the background is City Hall.
Oh, nice.
So this is a gold shield, and the officers will have silver ones that are identical to this. And I'll just, if I can get out of here. This chair is going to be the end of me tonight. I'll just pass it around. I'll collect it at the end. But we're very pleased with the product. And even though it's specialty, one thing, they were cheaper to buy than like the traditional style badge like we would buy from, there's pretty much one major badge manufacturer in the country, Blackington, and those were cheaper than if we would have replaced them with these. So you have to pay a design fee, of course, but it's still overall it was cheaper. So I think they turned out super, super nice. A lot heavier than these. They're thicker, but they will last well into my retirement, that's for sure. And the last thing I want to talk about is a little bit about social media stuff. It's been no secret that my department has been under great criticism the last month on social media, specifically some employees targeted. And it's frustrating, but it's part of what we accept with this job. The majority of it that I'm aware of is on other sites that the city has no control over. And I recognize that and understand there's not a whole lot we can do to it. What I do take issue with is a lot of the stuff that has been posted has been completely false and riled up the troops, a lot of the troops that don't even live in Columbus or maybe even the state, with their own opinions and things getting embellished. And it's been kind of frustrating just to sit and watch. So I just wanted to chat a little bit about that and some of the, probably 3 of the major issues that have created some of those, and provide you guys with some facts from my perspective. Seems like everyone else has a voice, so I think it's time for me to have one. Specifically related to our zoning and ordinance enforcement, last year, after we received complaints of a property that was pretty bad, I made the decision that we were going to start addressing them in the community. And I talked with the city administrator about that, and I believe he even shared that with you at a council meeting, that we were going to begin that process. In the last several months, since we've been doing that, I've been kind of keeping you updated in my monthly reports with some of the issues that we've had along that way. So what I want to do is just kind of briefly explain what our process has been so everybody understands it. Despite what social media says, no one randomly gets a ticket in the mail from the Columbus Police Department for an ordinance violation. That specific post a few months ago, we've been dealing with those people for months to try to get them into compliance, but yet they received a random ticket in the mail from the department, which was completely untrue. Another frequent commenter about those ordinances, someone that we've been dealing with since we started this project last probably July or August. And like with everything else, our process is we do education first, and then if that fails, we enforce. That person, like everyone else, was served a copy of the ordinance, explained what they need to do to get into compliance, and if he didn't, he was going to be cited. He didn't get into compliance. We gave him a little extra time. We tried to work with him. In the last conversation on his property with the officer, when he told if he didn't comply, he was going to get cited, his words were, "Bring it on." So he subsequently got several tickets over a period of time that Attorney Johnson is very familiar with. Wanted to take them to municipal trial, and then we were paying an officer overtime to be at court, didn't show up. So was found guilty by default of some substantial fines, but yet that is always being represented as, you know, our fault and that we did it to him, which is, in the end result is that his action, as with some others, did the same thing. Another property we're currently dealing with here in town, the property owner, and this is probably the worst one we've seen in town, he's told us he's not going to change anything. So Attorney Johnson's probably going to be familiar with him in the coming months, and we'll just have to see where it shakes out. We have a actual formal written complaint from one of his neighbors, so we kind of look ineffective in that respect because we're not able, you know, we can't force compliance. We can try to incentivize it by saying, you know, let's try to work with you, but that's been a flat out that he doesn't want to work with us. His first response was he lives in Dodge County, so we have no jurisdiction over him, and kind of laughed. But eventually, I think the realization is that he lives in the city and is being held accountable. Lastly, one of the posts took place, I wasn't at the council meeting, it was discussed at, I was out of the office for a couple of weeks for a family emergency, about someone that was ticketed while shoveling their driveway. That was false. The officer that issued that citation, no one was outside, there were no footprints, there were no tracks of the vehicle being moved recently. Our policy is, I've been very specific with my staff each winter about how we enforce stuff like that. If there's a car on the street and if they're shoveling the driveway, leave them alone. That has been crystal clear. In this case, no one was shoveling, there were no footprints in the snow, the car wasn't running, there were no tracks, he issued a citation. As part of our process, we take a picture. We have a picture to reflect that. But yet it was represented that someone was out shoveling their driveway, and we pulled up and gave him a ticket, which is totally untrue, and kind of a disservice to our officers, and very unfortunate. Lastly, I understand that there'll be some further discussions about changing in the snow emergencies. I would like to be an active part of that. I'm all for it. If we can come to something that everybody can agree on, and that's potentially going to be difficult, and then we're going to have a year or two of a learning curve and hopefully not change it again, because that's kind of the way things have gone for the last 8 or 10 years that I've been affiliated here. My office staff don't need the abuse they take from people when they come in and pay their tickets, or call and yell, or create a disruption in the lobby where we got to call an officer in, and that's happened. They don't deserve it. It's very unfortunate, so I'm willing to be a part of that solution and not the problem. I think I covered everything else. I wrote a bunch of notes here. I'm sure I missed something, but we plan, I know one thing I forgot. We plan to continue with our zoning and ordinance enforcement. We're not going after trivial things. The properties that we are addressing are terrible, and ones that I think every one of you would agree with needs some attention or some incentives, like maybe a copy of the ordinance. We give everybody usually 3 weeks to get into compliance, and if they call us on the 20th day and say, hey, I need another week, we'll work with them. That's not an issue. Right now, we currently have 4 actively going, 4 cases, if you want to call it of that. 2 of them are people that just refuse to comply, and 2 of them are relatively new to the process. And we've identified some other properties that we'll probably be addressing at some point in time, but we're not giving attention to minuscule, minor violations, like a flower pot tipped over or something that just looks a little bad. We're dealing with properties that have 8 or 10 cars in the driveway. Some of them run, some of them don't. Some of them are registered, some of them aren't. Properties that are just in horrible disrepair next to probably one of the most beautiful and historic houses in town. Things like that we are trying to make the community more beautiful. All we want is compliance. We gain nothing by issuing citations. I know the frequent posts say, oh, it's a money grab, and all they want is the money. And I'll be the first to tell you that the PD doesn't see a penny of that. And what does get returned back after court costs and those types of things to the city is pretty minuscule. It's almost a losing proposition, to be honest with you. So I just wanted to spend a couple of minutes kind of giving you a from the heart how we're doing things and why we're doing them and some of the issues we've experienced. The social media stuff on the non-city pages, I get it. That'll continue for the rest of our lives and probably get worse the way the world is going in general. But I just think that I wanted to spend a minute and bring this to your attention as a group. I know I put some bits and pieces in my monthly reports, but I think a direct communication sometimes is probably the best way so you can hear it from me instead of reading 2 sentences about an issue that we had. And I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have them, and then I'm done.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dennis. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Matt?
Couple of recognitions that I'd like to make. First, I'm going to start with Sarah Motive, who's serving in her final capacity on the council. And I want to thank Sarah for her involvement in the time I've been with the city. And I know we won't be strangers, because if you don't know, Sarah's 2 houses down. So my kids are relatively frequent visitors to her yard and riding their bikes. And so grateful to have worked with you on the council and look forward to seeing you in the neighborhood. So thank you, Sarah. Secondly, I want to recognize Stephanie Mache is in her final days as the city's human resource administrator as she retires later this week. Stephanie's played an important role in my transition to the city and will be greatly missed by our staff. As evidence, the staff has put together like a 3-week goodbye to Stephanie, where each department has showered her with gifts, had lunch with her, and has had a lot of fun visiting with Stephanie in these final weeks. Thank you. Human resources staff are often put in difficult situations in maintaining positive relationships with staff. I won't make any office jokes with Toby, but Stephanie's been a sympathetic ear, a confidant, a mental health counselor, and a valued team member in her time with the city. And I ask the council and community to join me in wishing her the best in her retirement, where I hope she'll be willing to share sourdough bread with staff in the near future.
Yeah.
Lastly, just on the code enforcement, I'm cutting my paragraph in half based on previous discussion this evening. I just share if there are ordinances that need to be reviewed, I encourage council members to bring those to the mayor and I's attention so that we can get them on council meetings for future discussion. I appreciate the work that Mike Kornman, Chief Weiner, Officer Knoll, and the rest of our police department have been doing to help the city address ordinance violations in the community. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Matt. I'd like to say many thanks to our city clerk and her staff for all the work that was done through the election process. Heard a lot of positives about having it come through City Hall here. So glad that had worked out. Welcome to Kendra Riddle, who is our new HR person, and she's here to stay because she's got pictures plastered everywhere in the office. So, and I would like to extend my thanks to outgoing Alder Sarah Motif and wish you the very best in going forward.
Thank you.
And then also welcome into next council meeting Marcus Meyer, who will be the new council Alder. And then also congratulations to Columbus Cardinals archery team. They did a fantastic job at state and onward to nationals. So.
I have a question on that, actually. Do they get on, I've had people ask me this, do they get like on that sign outside of the city as you enter for being state champs?
No, because that stuff is owned by either the, I think it's the back, is it the backboard? It's a different organization that owns those, or that put those signs in.
Oh, it's not the school?
They're not sponsored by the school, so. And that is all that I have. And so I would look for a motion to convene to close session per 19-8 or 19.85 sub 1 sub C to consider employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, specifically the city administrator annual review.
Alder Motif will make a motion to convene to close session per 19851C.
Second.
Okay, motion by Alder Motif, second by Alder Finkler to convene to close session. Could I have a roll call, please?
Relke.
Can you discuss?
Lawson.
We're going to be discussing.
Motive.
Aye.
Finkler.
Do you have something?
Aye.
Rostad.
Aye.
Reed. Aye.
Okay, before you state something,
Can we add the Alder-elect in the closed session, not to participate in discussion, but listen in if there's direction? So he's up to speed, or are you going to bring him up to speed?
I think what Paul is going to tell you is that the council determines who can be in the closed session.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
I have no concerns. I have no concerns.
I have none, no.
Welcome to the party.
Meyer.
He doesn't get to vote.
Oh, he doesn't get to vote.
No.
Okay. I take that back. Sorry.
Okay, we are in closed session. You have the paper for me?